Braveheart Workshops, inspiring connection. Restore. Dream. Getaway Experiences. Love, live, and laugh. With Braveheart Workshops. Live now with Jill Reynolds.
The Connection Show. Restore, renew, and reconnecting community. Sponsored by Braveheart Workshops, live with Jill Reynolds. And joining me today is Sandra Nunes. Welcome to the show, Sandra.
Thank you so much, Jill. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's an honor to have the audience get to know about you. So what I'm going to do is read a little bit about you so that they're better informed. Sandra Nunes' passion is helping others in whatever way possible, from the smallest acts of kindness to whatever it takes to see joy in their faces when she helps them. Sandra began her career in the Army. She proudly served her country while gaining valuable knowledge that would eventually help her pursue a career as a police officer in the civilian world. Upon completion of the military duty, Sandra took all the required exams, but timing was not on her side. So she continued to work in the corporate world and found that in customer service, her calling had appeared. She knew she could make a difference for others. Today, she has paralleled all her experience into becoming an entrepreneur and an international best-selling author and #1 in new releases in the self-esteem and self-help categories. She's the founder of 2 companies, Concierge Lifestyle and Growing with Sandra. Both companies are dedicated to bringing a better quality of life to her clients that allows them to live the life they have always wanted and deserve. Concierge Lifestyle supports them in handling items on busy professionals' to-do lists so they have time to focus on what matters most to them. Growing with Sandra supports women who feel stuck or trapped by their circumstances and helps them to shift their view so they can see ways to grow that bring them more happiness, joy, and fulfillment. So, wow, what an amazing bio you have, Sandra. And I would love you to take us on a journey and connect us back to those days when you were little and what led you to a position of wanting to serve our nation and then go from there.
Wow. Okay, we're going way back. That's great. I guess I wanted to follow in my dad's footsteps. My dad was a police officer. And when I graduated from high school, I graduated early. I was only 17. So I was too young to go into the police force or even take the exam because you had to be 19 at the time. And so I figured, let me get some experience. And I went into the military. I was a military police officer. And when I got out, the military would also pay for college because I wanted to become a detective and move into forensic science. So that was the route that I wanted to go in. And when I came out and I took all the exams, as I said, I was waiting for them to call me back. And by the time they called me back, unfortunately, the mayor in the city in which I lived put a freeze on hiring of police officers. So I continued working in the corporate world. And that's when I discovered that customer service was an area that I really wanted to concentrate on. And really every step that I wanted to do had something to do with helping people, whether it was a police officer helping people or, forensic scientist or customer service. It was something always around wanting to help people because that's what I enjoy doing. So.
Awesome. That's awesome. Now, you served in the Army. Was it the Army?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And that was 4 years then?
That was 3.
3.
2 inactive, 1 active, yes.
So did you go overseas then?
No, I did not. I stayed here in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
I was stationed in California.
Okay.
And it was interesting. It was a different way of life, which I really enjoyed, the discipline and the routine. And It was definitely interesting. I wanted to go overseas, but that wasn't in the cards for me. So
Well, my husband served during the Vietnam War and he got called up to go to Greece. So his tour was not bad at all. So when you get called up and you're not going somewhere dangerous, it makes life a little bit easier and not so stressful.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So now in the corporate world, then you got into customer service. So tell me a little bit about the customer service environment that you were in and who did you serve?
I was in several different industries, starting out in with microscopes in manufacturing, but I was in customer service, the call center, and serving colleges and schools and providing them with the technology of using microscopes and things like that. And I enjoyed that a lot. I did do some traveling during that time as well. But the one job that I really enjoyed doing was in my last corporate position, which was for 16 years, where I was trained. One of the positions I held, I think I held almost every position in that company except for accounting and data processing. I moved around in the company a lot because I like to do different things. But the area that I really enjoyed was when I was a trainer and I would go out to our different accounts and train them and teach them about the product.
Mm.
That was the most exciting for me. And I traveled a lot during that time until 9/11. And then I wasn't traveling with them anymore. But that was that was the one position in that company that I really enjoyed the most because I got out there one on one with people. So,
Nothing better than trainers. When I sold technology and I had trainers that would train my clientele on how the copier worked, those were my best friends because I hated showing people that I could sell anything, but do you get me to have to show you the how to work the equipment? Forget it. So trainers were my heartbeat. You guys are a
yes,
dime a dozen. I'm not a million. What is that? Not a dime a dozen. You're like a diamond in the rough there that we all need. We all need you,
yes,
corporate
yes.
trainers. So then lead us down that path then. So you're in this corporate world, and then what takes you on this shift for leaving that and what happened to your life to have a change besides 9/11?
Yes, much later, about 10 years later, I, I was working like many other people. I wasn't in that trainer position the whole entire time. As I said, I moved into different positions. And I was working like everyone else, 70, 80 hours a week, and a pile of work up to here that I couldn't get through every day. And it stayed up here because it just kept on piling up. And I just couldn't say no to anything. I just wanted to help and I wanted to do everything. And I was running around doing everything for everybody else. And then when I would leave work, I'm running around doing everything at home for family and taking care of the home. And I just never had any time for myself. I just ran myself completely ragged, so much so to the point that I got sick.
And
And
what year was this now,
that was
Sandra?
in 2011,
2011. Okay.
2011, right. And so I got sick after just running around like crazy, and I received a diagnosis of cancer.
Mm.
And when I finished my treatment and I went back to work, I had to see specialists and go to doctor's appointments. And, specialists don't have weekend or evening hours. So I had to go during lunch. And when I went during lunch and came back late sometimes, and doctors book 3, 4 people at a time for the same slot, that was completely unacceptable. Totally unacceptable.
For you or your boss?
My boss. For my
Really?
boss. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Well,
Things.
see what happens in that corporate world.
Mhm,
What a lot of people don't understand, and I'm sure that you figured it out later,
mhm,
is the more you do, the more they take advantage of you, and the more then they feel like they don't need to hire another person because they know that you'll take the role of 2 to 3 people. And so the more you take on,
mhm.
the more dangerous it becomes because that's what they expect of you, and that's not even your job description.
Correct. And that's exactly what happened. And when I was finally given my freedom of that 16-year job that I thought I could rely on, and I realized I couldn't rely on anything, that's when I decided that I had to do something that could help other people not have to go through what I went through. And I created Concierge Lifestyle, where I helped busy professionals and families to take things off their to-do list so that they could now have time to invest in what matters most and to do the things that they enjoy, like family time or, day at the spa with the girls or golfing with the boys. Whatever it is that they wanted to do, they now would have the time to do that.
But let me ask you a question that's
Mhm.
really important. I'm a tough interviewer. So my good $1 million question to you is, before you got into your own business helping others, did you pause long enough and realize that your life had become that of a raving codependent, that people pleased everything? And did you do your own work first before you dived into the next journey of your life? And you could say, no, I didn't. And I don't mean to humiliate you if you,
No,
but
no, no,
no,
not at
but
all.
I'm wondering, did you pause and reflect and start working on your own self?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. And that's where the second business came from. But I will step back to that and speak to that a moment. A year after I finished treatment, I was sitting in my girlfriend's kitchen and I said to her, I don't understand why I don't feel grateful for having survived cancer and having another day to live. Other people that go through what I went through, they wake up every morning with so much love and gratitude for having a breath of air in their lungs and that they have another day to live. And I was just not feeling it. And she said, you need to read The Secret. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was about. I started researching, found out that it was film, a documentary film first, and then a book. And I'm an audio visual person, so I bought the DVD and started watching it. And it's about the law of attraction, and I didn't really understand what that was at the time and know what that was. But there was a lot of talk about gratitude in there, and I assume that's why she referred me to that. And so I was watching it, and I said, okay, this is interesting. There's some things here that I think I can do, and maybe do some of these gratitude practices to see if it would help me and make a difference. And then there were some parts that I was just like, yeah, right. Okay, whatever. Oh, weird stuff. And as I started to practice the gratitude tools that they use and strategies that they use, I started to notice there was more things coming into my life to be grateful about. And so I continued and I watched the DVD over and over and over again. And as I started to continue practicing the gratitude and started to change who I was and how I was feeling about things, I started to notice those things I used to be, yeah, right, about started to make sense to me. And I started to follow some of the teachers that were in the film, like Jack Canfield, Lisa Nichols, Mike Dooley, Joe Vitale, a bunch of these teachers of the law of attraction. And I started listening to their books and videos and things like that. And I started on this personal growth journey that to realize, wow, there's a different way of being. There's definitely a way that you can navigate through life and not maybe have all of this chaos and trauma and drama appear in your life. And it took me a while to get it and work on it. And I'm still working on it every day.
Yeah.
And what I found was I liked the person that I was becoming. I liked who I was looking like because I didn't feel, I kind of felt kind of almost fraudy, like a fraud, you get that fraud syndrome when you're just pretending and you're pretending until you become it. And I wasn't getting that. And finally, one day it was just, wow, I actually feel like I am this good, loving, caring, compassionate person that I wanted to be. And it became my reality.
Yeah, it shifted. It shifted.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It definitely shifted for me.
Well,
And
it's funny, back in the day, and that's why I asked what year all this took place. Back in the 90s, and that'll age. I'm one of those women, believe it or not, that say my age. I'm 66. So back in 1992, never forget it. My brother-in-law had passed away at 36 of cirrhosis of the liver. He was an alcoholic. And my sister and her kids moved in with me and my son, and we helped them out. And all of a sudden, within a year, things shifted, and she didn't need me anymore. And she was back on her own feet. And when that shift took place and that feeling that, oh, she doesn't need me anymore, all of a sudden it was like hard blow over the head how codependent I had become of caretaking her. And back in those days, Sandra, they actually had treatment centers for codependency that insurance covered, believe it or not. So
Mm-hmm.
I knew I'm a very intuitive, very resilient woman, and I knew that I had gone overboard in my emotional state. So I checked myself in personally and did a 30-day stint in treatment for codependency. And so my definition now, there's so many books out on codependency. I led Codependence Anonymous meetings for 10 years and sponsored over 50 women in codependency. And so my definition became when we allow people, places, or things to become more important than ourselves and we lose our identity, we have fallen into a codependent state. And so, as you were speaking, and you had mentioned your job and your boss, I always stop people and say, it's very easy to understand codependency for people because we know, hey, we're doing things for people. But what about places? And so for looking at places is your job, your church, your home. Are these
Mm-hmm.
places more important than yourself? And you've lost your identity. And for things, I say, has food, like overeating, undereating, exercise, over exercising, under exercising, whichever, drugs, alcohol, sex, gambling, spending. Are these things more important than yourself? And if the answer is yes, then we are in a state of codependency. And 99.9% of all the world has been here at some point. Because, if you're breathing, living, we've done
Mm-hmm.
this at some point in our life. So for me, it's more than when we identify, because it's good to sit down and identify, like you identified gratitude, then you begin that process of healing the codependency so that you are codependent no more, which is Melody Beatty's famous book. So, as you were speaking and then shifting, so now let's shift because I really wanted to know what happened when you got into the concierge business. So now you've shifted into concierge helping others. And so pick it up from there of what took place in your life.
So as I began to work with my clients and in helping them to free up their time, and like we're having this conversation, they would ask me the same questions about, well, what made you start this business? This is such a great idea. It's amazing. I can't believe that this exists and it's making a difference in my life. And they would ask me questions how I got started, and I would share my story with them as I did with you just now about cancer. And they would ask me, well, what exactly did you do? What were those gratitude practices that you were doing? And I would start sharing that with them. And I found that where they thought the problem was they didn't have enough time to enjoy their life, that wasn't the problem at all. There were other issues that they were having because now they had the time to enjoy their life and they still weren't enjoying it. So that's when I realized, wow, I can put this together in a program for women who feel stuck or trapped in their current circumstances and help them and remind them that they have the power to choose to create the life that they want and deserve. And that's where Growing with Sandra came about. And you said something a moment ago interesting about things and places. And one of the places for me was my home. And I stayed in my marriage longer than I should have because I was complacent and comfortable in my home, even though I wasn't happy. And I remained there alone and unhappy, lonely and unhappy. And I said to myself, well, if this is how it is with someone, I'd rather be alone and happy than be with someone and feel lonely and unhappy. And I had to work getting past the fact that I can be dependent on myself. I can be independent. I can have a nice home. It's not going to be a big house like I had right now, but I can definitely have something that is mine and I can be comfortable in. And it was a lot of things that kept me there. That was one of them. It was just interesting that you mentioned that specifically about a place, a home. And I was able to shift my thinking again about that and change my belief by shifting my thinking, which then changed my habits, my behaviors, and then my habits, and now became my destiny, which is where I am now. So,
That's amazing. So I'd like to ask a few questions. So with Braveheart workshops, we talk about at the beginning of the show, restore, renew, and reconnect. So tell us a little briefness about how have you utilized restore in your life in 2020 with things shifting. What has restore or restoration looked like? How have you brought things back into your life or just restored things in your life this year?
yes, I love that word and the meaning of that word of bringing back a previous right. See, I thought that I had no right to be happy. I thought I had no right to feel entitled to go on vacation. I had no right to speak up for myself. I was in such a different place. Before the cancer, I was in a downward dark spiral. And in starting to change that, what restored for me was the right to be happy. I restored the right to be happy and know that I am deserving of being happy and I'm deserving of doing whatever I want, being whatever I want, and having whatever I want and not have to feel guilty about it. So I restored my right to my power.
Yeah.
And now I speak.
And a lot of times too, what people don't understand of how do you get to that place of restoration? I think it has to, for me anyway, this is my personal belief. You have to be willing to walk through the pain of going to those protectors in our life or managers in our life that we walk around and the world sees those protectors or managers. So we might walk around like very in control or very, perfectionistic or whatever that protector might be. And
Mhm.
I believe uh, in the slowing down process, and I'm all about now connecting dots. That's why I always say, take us back, because I love to connect dots. So, in the taking of those dots, taking time to slow it down and look for the protector or manager in your life, asking it if it's willing to unblend from you so that those other um, parts have room to be seen. And so part of restoration bringing back, I think, is allowing things to step aside so that others can come into fruition is my philosophy and belief with restoration. Renewal. Renewal is a time in our lives that we after we come back and renew after there's been an interruption in our life. So how have you done something to renew your life in 2020
Hmm,
after something's been interrupted?
interesting. Um, I'm going to connect the dots definitely. So when we are children, we do whatever we want, right? We're running around, little toddler, and we're touching this and we're touching that. And, we're being told not to do all these things, but we do it anyway. And we do whatever we want because we have the power to choose to do it. Don't touch the stove, it's hot. Boom. Ah! We touch the stove anyway because we do what we want.
Mhm.
Then somewhere along the line, we start listening to don't touch the stove and don't do this and don't do that. And we give up our power to choose and we start listening to those stories that other people are saying about us or the stories we're making up in our own mind. And then we live our lives according to that. So, what I have renewed for myself is, again, standing in my own power to make the choices that I want to make for me based on what I want, not what everybody else is telling me. So, when the voice in my head becomes louder than the voices on the outside, I know I've mastered my thoughts at this point. And that's what I've done for myself in 2020.
So you've renewed your mind.
Renewed my mind and my power to be, do, and have whatever I want.
Well, a really good visual for the audience and yourself is I had a holistic doctor in Chicago. He just passed recently. He was in his late 80s. Um, and I found out I had genetic celiac disease that had been undiagnosed until my 50s. And so when he was working with me to get me my mindset, my renewed mindset to get off of gluten and not to just say I'm going to be gluten free, but once in a while cheat. He said, "What I'd like you to do, Jill, is all you need is a little microscopic, tiny, like almost like a breadcrumb, very small piece of gluten to get in your cells when you have genetic celiac." And he says, and that's equivalent to you doing this. So anytime you decide you do not want to stay gluten free and you want to go out and, let's say, have a piece of pie that's got gluten in it for dessert, what I want you to do is afterwards go home and take your hand and put it in the fire of the stove. Like turn on the burner and burn your hand. He goes, because what you just did is you burned all the cells within your body and made them inflamed, and it will take your body anywhere from 3 to 6 months to get the inflammation back out of the cells. So you can continue eating gluten if you want, or you can choose to let the inflammatory markers get balanced. And it literally took my body, after doing what he said, 4.5 years before the gluten got out of my cells because it had been in it for so many years. So I love that fire example, and it's your decision. You can
Right.
choose to keep burning your mind and your cells in your body, or you can choose life. It's your
Right.
choice.
Everything is a choice.
Yeah,
Even
everything.
when you don't think that you have the power to choose, like you feel like, oh my gosh, I have no choice. I had no choice.
Hmm.
You had a choice. Whether you made a decision or not, your indecision was a choice.
Yep. Yep, it is. Reconnect, the last one. How have you reestablished bonds of communication and reconnected with, I always say this, reconnected with the God of your understanding, with self and community? Because I always say that. And if your God of your understanding is, I don't believe in God, there is none. So, how have you reconnected in reestablishing bonds in these arenas of your life?
The bond with God, I've discovered I'm more spiritual than I am religious. And I believe in a higher power, I would say, definitely. And different than I did traditionally before. My family, we weren't really religious. We didn't go to church, but I was one of six, and myself, out of all six of us, was the only one that went to church, and that was my choice. And I think it was because I was looking for something. I was seeking something, and I did find a church that I was very happy with, but then we moved away. And I think I was like 13 or 14 years old, and then we moved away. And then I just never pursued it again after that. It took me so long just to find that one. And so I never pursued it again after that. But I always wondered what that was about, and what is this feeling of love and being able to just live forever and all those things that I used to hear. And as an adult now, through my personal growth that I've been doing since I was sick, found that I'm more in tune with my spirit than I am with God. And so I've reconnected that way. And I'm sorry, what was the second?
Reconnect with self. So kind of it's you kind of blended
Yeah,
those together.
Yep, those two together. And then with community, I would have to say more with my family, because at one point throughout my process of my personal growth, I chose to divorce my siblings because I did not like the person that I would become when I was around them. We would do things that weren't very nice. And that's kind of the way that we grew up, and that's the way it was. We didn't treat each other with respect and things like that. And so when I was trying to do all this work on myself, once I got back together with them in a family function or something, I would fall back into these old habits. Like we never we never knew how to treat each other as adults once we became adults. We all went our separate ways. When we got back together, we would treat each other like we were when we were kids again. And so I said, you know what? I need to take a break. I was telling my brother, and I guess he communicated it to the rest of my siblings. And they said, my one sister called me and said, so should we not invite you to things? And I'm like, not if you don't want to hear no. But yeah, no, don't invite me to things for now. I said, not forever, but you know. And after a couple of years, I actually got back to the point of being ready to reconnect with them. And I called every single one of them one by one. And I said, you know, I love you. I want to apologize for showing up the way that I did in our life and trying to look bigger and make you smaller so that I could be more powerful. And for that, we missed out on having this beautiful bond of siblings, you know, that siblings would have. And I ask your forgiveness, and I stand in my power to want to create a new relationship with you with no judgment, compassion, and love. And every single one of them said, you don't know how long we've been waiting for this phone call.
Mm-hmm. How lovely.
Yes. And now we've reconnected, and it's so different now. And the one sister who called me said, should we not invite you to things anymore? When I spoke with her and told her what I was going through, she said, you know what? Maybe you're going to be the one to teach the rest of us.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
that just, woo, you know.
And you know, and what's nice about your story is having those family members have the grace to move forward and not, I've had so much dysfunction in my family, and because of my trauma growing up, I was always the one that people perceived as the controlling, pushy one, the one that would should everyone. You should do this, you should do that. But as I continued my healing and my recovery, a lot of that shifted. But every single time we'd get back together, they would not include me in conversations and things because they always still saw me as the pushy, controlling, should person. And and I kept getting more and more wounded, and I'm like, I'm not that way anymore. Just would you can we do a race and let's do a do-over? And it sounds to me like your family was healthy enough when you got to a place of asking for forgiveness to say, let's do a do-over, and not, keep pushing it back into your face. Well, this is who you are. And no, there's a real good song I like that says the words are, I'm not that's not who I am today.
Yes. Yes, I agree.
Yep. Because sometimes people keep you stuck in that.
Yes.
Excuse me.
And it wasn't until, that's okay, you good?
Yep.
It wasn't until I showed them that I wasn't that person anymore that they actually realized, oh boy, okay. And now I am included in those conversations. And I had the same experiences that you did. They weren't including me because I was pushy and I was, you should. And I don't use those words anymore. That's another way I've shifted my communication with everyone is instead of saying you should or you must or you have to, I use the words you may want to consider.
Sorry, I have to chew gum for 2 minutes to get my throat back to normal.
Exactly. I did the same thing with cough drops when that happened.
And I'm done. I just had to get some, my voice was so dry. So a couple of things that I wanted to ask then. So with that shift as well, if today, if someone told you you had to get rid of all your apps on your cell phone and you could only keep 2, what are your 2 must-haves?
You just froze up with that whole thing.
Okay.
Sorry.
Are you there? Am I there? Can you hear me?
Yes.
If someone asked you today that you had to get rid of all of your apps on your cell phone, but 2, what are your 2 must-have apps?
Oh my goodness, that's a good question. Oh.
You have permission to look at your cell phone.
I don't remember all my apps. My Insight Timer. Insight Timer is a meditation app where it has all kinds of guided or music or types of apps because meditations. That's what I wake up to every morning. That's part of my gratitude practice in the morning and my doing myself routine in the morning. So it would be that one. And if I can't have the phone, I guess I would have the texting, so I could at least communicate with people somehow.
You can have your phone. You got to keep one. You can have the
Okay.
phone, but you got to
Okay.
eliminate all the apps. Delete, delete, delete. So you could have texting. Texting as
That's an app, right? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Then I don't need to have the texting because I don't really like texting anyway, actually.
Email is an app. Or Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or
No, the social media apps don't really are not important to me. The one that's important to me is the Insight Timer, and I would say then the emails uh, for communication.
communication.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And what's one fun fact about you?
One fun fact about me: I can cook a mean dish and teach you salsa all at the same time.
So you'll dance salsa while you're cooking, huh?
Yes, salsa while I'm cooking. Yes.
That's amazing. I like that one. Teach you salsa. My father was a Fred Astaire dance instructor when he was young, and
Oh,
in his 20s, and he was amazing at teaching people to dance. And I could never learn how to partner dance. I'm phenomenal at freestyle dancing, but you try to get me to follow. It's had to be with the way I was, a controlling little girl just to stay alive, and
hmm.
try to get me to follow. I could not do it, but man, could he dance with my sister. And they both passed away, unfortunately, in September, 2 days apart. And, in my only joy of losing both of them within 2 days was I'm sure they're dancing in heaven because they both love to dance.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely. The Dancing in Heaven. Yeah. I used to teach at Arthur Murray's dance studios.
that's great.
The
That's
competition.
awesome.
Yeah. It was fun. A lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, what I'd like to do now is show the audience your. And Sandra, it has just been a gift to have you in my life. We just met through a women's group that was being held this past week and just felt connected to you. So I'm so grateful you came on. And audience, for all of you, we are just so grateful you joined us on the Connection Show. And we want you to know that we're here for you on Wednesday nights for our Zoom Connection group. And so as you listen to the video as we end the show, you'll have the information how to join the Connection Zoom every Wednesday night. And Sandra, if Wednesdays are ever free for you, please jump on because the audience loves to connect with leaders. You don't have to do it every week, but if there's one Wednesday night that you're free, if you're where are you on the East Coast, right? You're East
Yes.
Coast?
I'm in New York.
Yeah, so it's 8 p.m. to 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, and it's a wonderful show. This week we're going to be doing some fun with a woman who actually taught elementary school, and she has some playthings that she's going to share with us, so we could have some fun and laughter and lighten our load a little bit. So we do different things from real heavy therapeutic to improv and comedy and laughter. So we do a multitude of things on the Connection Show. So again, thank you so much for taking time to share your story with the audience.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I really had a great time and it was wonderful speaking with you. And I will definitely plug into your Wednesday show one of these Wednesdays.
Thank you very much. Everyone, you have a wonderful day and thanks so much for joining the Connection Show. Bye now. Thanks for joining us on the Connection Show. Let's connect now. We can dream together to renew, restore, and reconnect with wellness in our life and community. To enhance connection, join us in the Zoom Connection Gathering Tribe on Wednesday evenings. The Zoom Connection Gathering Tribe is an easy and practical way for everyone to meet up, gather, and feel welcomed and accepted. To join us, go to braveheartworkshops.com. Then click on the podcast tab and the Zoom Connection Tribe tab. On that page, go to the Facebook page called the Connection Show Gathering Tribe and register to join our Facebook group. We post secure passwords each week in the group so you can log in safely. We meet on Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 o'clock Central, 6 o'clock Mountain, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for 1.5 hours with great topics, laughter, and connection. See you on Wednesday evenings. Thanks for joining us and have a great day.